it up that time.
Mm-hmm. I did. Welcome back to the Something's Wrong Here podcast. And I'm already getting shit. Tonight we are going to talk about football versus football. So from here on out, we'll probably be talking football and soccer.
There we go.
To make it a little easier for the listeners.
But the title has to be catchy.
Yeah, exactly. I'm Randy.
I'm Kinsey.
And I'm Brian.
And tonight, I'm going to kind of drive because, Randy, how much do you know about soccer?
Oh, I know that there's a ball.
And shut up. All right.
There we go.
Fourth guy, who are you tonight?
I never see advancement
Ben.
on soccer.
All right. Why would we talk to you about football versus football, a.k.a. soccer?
Well, I'm a huge fan of both. Started playing soccer when I was 5 and played through college. Also, when MLS started, I became a season ticket holder for the Wizards. And 29 years later, been a fan the whole time. Traveled to U.S. games and also started going to Chiefs games when I was 10. So I've been to almost every Chiefs game since 1990.
Sweet.
And
Seen some ups and downs.
Yeah, lots of ups and downs. I was there for
since I was
14.
born, for perspective.
And then huge fantasy football player too. So I monitor the whole league and know a lot about it. So
I guarantee you yell "we" when you say things to the TV.
oh yeah.
Do you play fantasy
Yeah,
soccer?
I used to play fantasy soccer. I sucked at it, so I stopped because I like money and I was losing money.
I gotta be honest. Let's dive real quick on fantasy.
Okay.
Just
Oh, can I ask one real quick question
Yeah, yeah.
that extends on your intro? Because I just want to make sure we know that our guest Ben, he not only did he play soccer when he was younger, he still plays now.
Yeah, I play now in the
plays.
over 35 league.
Yeah.
over 35. That's wow. That's generous. You could be a little above that.
Yeah. 44. whatever.
He cuts a picture of a true athlete out there.
All right.
Oh, I do. Yeah. You should see me run.
This is a quick
Remember that picture?
quick tangent here.
Worst picture ever of me.
Are you guys old done?
Sorry,
yet?
man.
Jesus
Sorry.
Christ.
I know him too.
Back in my day. All right. Fantasy football.
Yeah.
Obviously the OG of good fantasy sports. And then all the others kind of tried, and are any of them worth a shit?
What do you mean by the others?
Like I've done fantasy hockey, I've
Baseball.
done fantasy soccer, I've done fantasy baseball once, never again. But
I mean, there's a niche for everybody. A lot of baseball fans play.
I would say baseball.
Daily baseball.
bigger than football?
No,
No, it's not bigger, but
a lot.
It's
of
up
people
there.
do it, yeah.
But okay, so football biggest, baseball second makes sense. But then after that, I mean, it falls off quick.
It does, but there's with the daily DFS stuff, people play every sport, and so yeah, there's a lot there. But football by far is the biggest when you're talking money.
I would say you see more probably betting.
Yeah.
Just because you can catch a soccer game pretty much any time. Horse racing's around the world all the time. So you'll see those kind of things like betting. But yeah, football, then baseball. You'll get a little basketball.
Yeah.
But I don't even know if I've heard of a soccer league.
Yeah, like MLS
It
sponsors
exists.
one on their website.
I'm sure it exists.
sure
If you
it's
can
there.
if you can put money on it, it exists.
If it's a way to gamble on the sport somehow, somebody's going to find a way to do it.
You bet your ass. That's money, babe. All right, going from fantasy to fandom. Let's talk football versus soccer for simplicity. I wanted to touch first on, have you ever seen one guy create a venue change other than Lionel Messi?
Create a venue change.
I mean, Phil Arrowhead versus Phil Children's Mercy.
Oh, okay. Well,
I mean, let's be honest. Why did the venue change from Children's? Well, that and could they sell out Arrowhead when you have Messi on the field?
yes. I mean, I was there.
did.
It wasn't full. It was probably 90% full, but they only changed it for money.
Did Beckham's
Beckham did it
coming
too.
to LA was pretty big.
Then there were, I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe there were some games Beckham played when he first got here that were like in the LA Coliseum versus the Galaxy Stadium.
All right, let's quit with this soccer fanboy and let's switch over and make fun of that for a second because those foot fairies just don't have a clue, right?
Oh my God!
I'm telling you right now, obviously, American football, they don't have a venue change because they sell them out every time, just big and bold every time.
Yes.
What's the fandom difference between like football and soccer? To each of you guys.
I think it's a culture. It's the culture is a lot different, and it's what we were raised on because there's no soccer just isn't prominent, and I think it has to do one with the excitement, the pace of play, the scoring patterns. I mean, a good soccer game's 3-2.
I think I would start deeper than that. I really do. One because football, American football, whatever. I think of football. I think soccer too. I can think both. But if you talk to anybody that didn't grow up here, I mean, people that are like my kids' soccer coaches, man. These guys grew up in, I think, Iran, Pakistan, something like that. But they don't play any sports other than soccer. All it takes is one ball. That's it. All it takes is a ball. That's all it takes. There's no
two marks on the field.
The rules aren't difficult. I mean, it's like simple. Why is the running the most simple sport? Put some shoes on, go fucking run.
Mm-hmm.
I think when it comes to
you don't even have to put shoes on.
That's a luxury.
Might hurt your feet.
when it comes to the fandom and filling the stadiums, though, there's a couple of things. One, it is the point of we didn't start it when we could walk, right? Not every kid, but also. There's simply more games. So think about baseball, right? Mm-hmm. They don't fill stadiums very often except for a few cities because there's 81 home games. Yeah. There are 8 home games in 365 days and then a couple more if you've got playoffs. So there's this scarcity of the supply where even the soccer team is going to have 20-25 games.
Supply and demand, man.
But they make the stadium smaller because of that, right? So Sporting Park's 20,000 and Messi's coming to town. We can sell 70,000 tickets. We're moving that damn
We're
thing.
going to Arrowhead.
Yeah.
So question I'll ask you then kind of on that is with regard to like tailgating.
Yeah.
And so Kansas City culture. Let's talk about where we're at right now to the locale. Kansas City tailgates big for Arrowhead Chiefs. Come Arrowhead upper level.
Yeah.
Represent.
Where I sit.
Hell yeah, brother. And just hanging and banging.
Too rich for my blood, man.
But
right.
let's also be real. You go out to the Sporting KC games, that parking lot, maybe not lately, used to be full and was tailgating and popping and people were having a great time. And they took the Chiefs culture, put on blue, and went to a different sport.
Absolutely. I mean, like a Royals game too, right?
Is that everywhere? Or is it bigger or different? Or how does that exist?
I would say, in my experience, I've traveled to 20 of the 29 MLS stadiums. Okay. I would say the ones where there's NFL style tailgating, it translates over. Okay. You go to LA, there's no tailgating.
Nothing.
I've been to both New Yorks, there's no tailgating. They're in the cities.
I heard the tailgates are crazy, but the parking, they just are all trying to get parking.
But you go to Columbus, it's just like here.
I would say, like you just said, a lot of it has to do with the parking. Like as a St. Louis Cardinals fan, you park wherever you can. There isn't a giant 1,000-car lot that you can park in.
There's like 15 bars around that stadium.
Correct.
And that's a different
game. And it does translate a little bit to it because you do go to the bars before the game and they are packed. Well, and everybody makes their way to the stadium. But you don't get the actual tailgate culture in the parking lot.
Tent and your grill and all that
definitely.
If you had an empty lot, would you guys park and tailgate?
Probably.
Hell yeah. There's just you guys built a stadium in a stupid spot.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's maybe a bleed over from college culture.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's because I think to me the Chiefs are a unicorn. I'm not their only one in the NFL by any means. But again, I think if you go to because college tailgates are like that. Yeah. There's just parking around college venues. I guess that's the one thing is they're not always in these.
And it might be an 8:00 game and they're starting at 7 a.m.
Super populated downtown areas or somewhere where you didn't have any room to put cars. Mm-hmm. But it's like, I mean, even UCM, man, that's their parking lot's not huge for that stadium. No. There's still people out there cooking, drinking, partying, playing bags.
A month ago, I was at the Buffalo game when the Chiefs were there. It's just like Arrowhead. All around.
The Bills Mafia.
We went to the Hammer lot and
Buffalo's kind of
crazy
depressing
stuff. But I've been to Lambeau and same thing, and that's in the middle of a neighborhood.
Yeah,
and it's a huge tailgate.
Yeah.
So, but for soccer, it's there, but it's in those cities where you would think it would be.
Green Bay, that's a wild venue too.
Fair.
Like just if you've never seen. Look at Google Maps where the stadium is in Lambeau. It's fucking. Like,
there's a house they had a house for sale. It was literally you could see from the front porch into the stadium.
You cross the street and you're in a neighborhood.
That's just crazy.
I know someone whose parents moved into an apartment building that overlooked Bush in St. Louis, and you watch the games from your window if you wanted to.
That'd be so cool.
You were a little further away, but you could, and it wasn't that bad.
They rented out those rooftops and everything now, and that it's the same one that own one light, two light out here.
Does the rent go down when the Cardinals suck ass? Because
it should because they're sucking
down years
ass. Lately. Another thing is I really think since we're here in Kansas City that you're going to lose a lot of that culture if they move the stadium, for baseball at least, to downtown. Because they're talking about, well, we don't have parking. We're just going to bank on people willing to walk 2 miles.
Or take the streetcar.
That's not going to be here for another 10 years.
Yeah, I think it's just going to change, right? People will adapt and go.
They'll adapt, but I think you're going to lose that tailgate culture.
I agree.
I don't know about if they want to put it where the paper building is, the Star building is. That's not great. But they can put it up north of the river. There's enough real estate there that they could kind of facilitate that same. Okay, we've got a little space for parking.
I want to throw a little something that just hit my brain. You just tickled me, okay? Well, our guy's gone. Damn it. You tickled me. What you just said, the tailgate goes away, but what he also said and pointed out, and it's true, if you've ever been to a Royals game that's not opening day or special this or that or that, blah, 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 it's not full. And it's not very tailgated because it's 3 o'clock on a Thursday and most of us have fucking jobs.
Yeah.
We gotta work. So the tailgate culture going away, is it?
Yeah, I agree with you for baseball. I worry about where they put Arrowhead if it moves. But I think it would be if it moved, it would be at the racetrack, and they would build tons of parking.
And they got tons of real estate.
We'll see how this ages, but I'm going to put a $10 smackarooski right there on Arrowhead is trying to get the fucking Royals gone so they can do something.
I was just going to say that.
Arrowhead knows. We ain't moving, and they don't want to pay them JoCo taxes. They don't want to pay those JoCo taxes.
So I like Kauffman. I like that.
What they're going to do is they're going to play here while they tear down Kauffman, rebuild it while they're still playing in the stadium they have, build it, then tear this down, and turn it into
like shops and bars
and all that, which they should.
If you've ever been to Gillette in New England, that's exactly what they did.
Now that we're talking money. Season tickets.
I like money.
God. I have a fun one that I want to throw out there just to make us all take a drink for a second. Ben, take a sec and then go ahead and estimate how much money over 30 years of season tickets in 2 sports you have spent cumulatively.
The first 20 years probably weren't that big a deal, but once the Andy Reid era started and started winning a lot of games.
10 years ago, so that's still 10 years ago.
Let's see. Right now I'm spending...
God, that gerbil is racing.
3 times 30. Chiefs plus playoffs. Here we go.
That is spending.
200. I bet I've spent $300,000. Somewhere in there. Wizards tickets were pretty cheap for the first 10 years, but even then, the last 10 years, I had 4 tickets with my family.
Still a couple $100.
Yeah, and that was $5,000 a year, 4 to 5 for the last 10, and then I travel, so I kind of put that in my head. Yeah, I'd be a lot richer if I didn't like sports. Let's put it that way.
So now I want to play a game.
I'd have more of it if I didn't do that.
Now I've thrown you on the spot. Now I didn't tell Randy this was coming, but Randy, you're on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
Can you think of a football player that would, and for reference, this is in Lionel Messi terms, and what he did to Miami, which if you guys aren't familiar, season tickets went from roughly $6,000, $7,000.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I can't imagine.
Can you?
20.
Can you guess?
If they started at 6-7, I would say they probably around the 18 to 20.
28 to 30. Yeah. They went up 28 to 30,000 is where they're at now. And they were pretty direct. You don't want to pay them, you want to bitch, take it to social media, someone's in line, and they've got money. It's Miami. Mm-hmm. Holy shit. Can you think of, is there, I'm laughing thinking the Kansas City Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes. Yeah. That's who I thought would raise the season ticket price so much we couldn't even think about it. Now I'm thinking, could you imagine if they went from where they were at to 6 times that, 5 times that?
It's the Super Bowls that made that happen.
Yeah. We've got
more.
But
but even so, it hasn't upturned that much.
Nowhere near that much. 50% since 2018.
50 is a hell of a lot less than 300.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
But you can also, I think there's a metric you can use that for American football is, when Brady went down to Tampa Bay. Mm-hmm. You took the best player in football that I don't think anybody's going to argue that, especially the player that was playing at the time. Yeah, you may say some historical guys, whatever, but he was the GOAT. He's the greatest of all time, and not many people argue that. He went down to Tampa Bay. And I don't think you saw anything crazy really happen like you do with Messi.
No. So now
he's at the end of his career, and going into a shitty team.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to go ahead and nix you on that one. Let's not say he's at the end of the career. Just because he's in the retirement league doesn't mean he's at the end of the career.
MLS isn't a retirement league.
No, not Messi. No.
He's talking about Brady,
I'm talking about Brady at 50 years old.
Oh shit, sorry.
Yeah, no, not Messi. Brady at 50.
46, I think he's 40.
Yeah.
I think he's my age.
He's late. No, he's
Hey.
a little older, I think.
Kudos to his talking deal. I still want to enjoy listening to him.
Right?
All right, so
He's got good hair, though. He does have good hair.
you're a fan of his hair.
No. I hate Tom Brady. I hate everything about him.
Damn. Well, why don't you tell us how you really feel, Brian?
Really? You want to know?
No. We're not opening Pandora's 40-minute box.
Full respect. Dude's boss.
He's a great thrower.
Great quarterback. Great leader of the team. Fucking hate him. Can't stand him. It's like John Elway full respect for the guy.
Yeah.
He knew how to fucking piss Chiefs fans off like nobody else.
But you just addressed a tangent that I had for everyone tonight.
I love doing that.
There you go.
Yeah, I do that sometimes.
Let's say you fucking hate an athlete, a Tom Brady, but you walk in, you sit down, you're with your person at a dinner, and Tom Brady and his person sit next to you. Are you going to look over and go, fuck you? No, you're going to probably be like, hey, man.
I probably wouldn't say, fuck you, but I would be civil.
Would you really talk shit?
I would probably throw a jab of some sort in.
Yeah, I'd find a way.
I could not resist.
In a friendly way.
I do feel like there's a lot of people out there that would throw the fuck you out, though.
Yeah.
There are a lot of immature yahoos out here.
Yes,
but
there is.
There's a lot of friendly. We know how to roast, have some fun. Obviously, Tom Brady knows what it's like to be roasted. He knows what it's like to have fun, poke fun, and see someone that's having a good time with him.
I wouldn't Tony Hinchcliffe him. That's the thing.
Now, at the same time, though, like, what level of appropriate fandom is there anymore? I mean, you see Jason Kelsey, and I'm going to defend Jason, because I'll tell you right now, you want to call my brother what they called his, whatever's in front of you, if it's a phone, I'll throw it down. If it's your face, I'll hit it. Like, I'm going to be angry, too.
Here's what I think is a more interesting question on that note, is if I, like, let's use Tom Brady as an example. Can't stand him. And the reasons are not necessarily personal. They're because he's been the guy who pulled the ripcord for the Chiefs a few times, Pat in his first year. But I thought a more appropriate question would be like, okay, I hate him. What if he comes to your team?
Right.
Do you love him instantly?
That is a good question.
I don't know, man, because it's like the previous body of work's already led me to be like, so.
I've got a lot of people I saw that hated Kareem Hunt on Facebook after an event, and now all of a sudden they're cheering again.
Yeah.
Is that short memory?
Well,
or is that...
I think it's an interesting question. I'm going to flip it a little bit. So, early Wizards, you may know the reference, but a player named Preki played for the Wizards.
Preki?
Yeah.
And he won the MVP, helped us win MLS Cup, and then he left. And I learned then, I was 20 when he left, and I was attached to the player. And I learned I needed to be attached to the club team because the players are going to come and go. And it's the same.
Yep.
Then guess what? 2 years later, he came back to Kansas City, and we were fans of him again. So it was more who's on the team. I'm supporting the team, and like I was pissed when Neil Smith went to the fucking Broncos, and then won 2 Super Bowls. Like fuck you.
Well, and then he stays. He still keeps his house here.
And then he's here, and I run into him out in public. I've never told him to fuck off, but I think it.
Yeah.
I'm going to text him and let you know you said that.
Here's a question for you guys. You brought up Kareem Hunt.
Yeah.
Kareem Hunt had an incident.
Yeah.
Team cut him immediately.
Yeah.
What is the point of doing that? Because he was still productive at that point. What is the point of doing that, knowing that another team is going to pick them up?
Do you want the practical,
2 days later?
The realistic answer, or
the realistic answer is optics?
Well, I mean,
legality.
I think you can see this when you deal with the Chiefs. When you deal with the Chiefs front office, they don't like when people lie to them.
Well, he did lie.
If you get caught,
I did forget about the lying.
Well, I mean,
part.
they don't feel like. Honestly, and Andy, I really think that it's Andy, it's Clark Hunt. It's like if they don't think that they can trust you, you're out. Yeah. If you're, if he would have part of the program, you're out.
Do you think if he would have got ahead of it and went to them immediately, be like, hey, there's this deal?
Absolutely.
Yes.
I think Rashee Rice proved it.
I think the PR machine inside the Chiefs would have spun and they'd have been right on it. It would have been a minimal thing.
Yeah, I don't know what Rashee did, but
I think
What
there
do you
was.
mean? You don't know?
no, I know what he did. I don't know what he did right after it. I just know a video came
Okay,
out.
I'll tell you this.
Walked off and left his car
With
there.
what he just said, if you don't lie and you say, yeah, I fucked up, Coach, I fucked up. I did it.
I think there's two things. One, I think part of that for Andy Reid is because of his upbringing, right? He grew up in some rough parts of LA, very diverse upbringing. He understands people make mistakes. He just wants you to own up to it. But I think the other thing is the timing of that, right? There were a lot of things that happened in the NFL, and if there's one thing, the Hunts are very cognizant of their image and their brand. Yeah. And I think with I don't know the exact timing, but Ray Rice had happened around
Wasn't
that
Kareem
time,
Hunt right in the middle of the Me Too movement?
Yeah. And so I think there was you lied to us, and we're going to react pretty quick.
Oh yeah. And I mean at that level that we're going to move on to the next one, but at that level, you are at a one-strike kickball. You're not at 3 strikes. You're at one-strike kickball. You're making millions of dollars to catch a ball and play a game.
Or there's maybe one ultra strike. You can have 3 smaller strikes, but one.
You can
ultra
have
strike
3 strikes that you admit to,
or
one that you lie about.
That's fair. Yeah, I believe it.
All right, guys, that was on it. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say another thing that cameras, phones have changed everything, because it was a phone video that he got. Yeah. A woman attacked him, he reacted, and it was all on phone.
Yep. And now you get to, and that was a legitimate video. That was a real video.
Definitely not Ray Rice.
But now you start getting into the point where people are setting people up just to put it on video. Yeah. Yep. And that's a whole different.
Yeah, that's
a whole different
Jason Kelce thing. I mean, that person didn't get everything they deserved, in my opinion, because they were doing it to get aroused.
You want to know what pisses me off is that Jason Kelce had to get drugged through the mud even for a second because of that incident. And it's like, I don't know anyone else here in the sense of your older brothers, your relationship with them, but God damn, I'm going to bat. I'm going to bat for my brothers.
It does say something positive, though, about our... not the act itself, like somebody saying that to him, but it does say something positive about... Jesus, I hate to say something positive about social media culture, in that I didn't hear anybody going, that guy should be able to tell him whatever he wants. No, and pretty much a fuck around and find out moment.
Yeah. And I think, I know this is not the subject, but I think there are a changing of the tide, if you will, with culture, because I think 5 years ago he would have taken more shit than he did now.
100%.
Yeah, he got about a week's worth of shit. You could tell he kind of went into hiding a little bit. Just it walked on eggshells, but it only lasted about a week.
That's how long the collective attention span of American culture is these days anyway.
Absolutely.
All right, kitties, it's time to herd.
Yeah.
All right, that was captivating.
Since when does he herd the room?
Shut the fuck up. Captivation.
A little power, and he goes on a trip.
Let's go back to Randy. I want to hit Randy right away.
Yes, sir.
I want Randy's answer, and then I want to hear everyone else talk.
Let's hear it.
Randy, is soccer boring?
At times.
At times.
I'm gonna give a Kinsey answer. At times.
Up the hedge.
It's one of those games that it's kind of like golf. You kind of got to be in the mood to watch, in my personal opinion.
Oh, fuck, you watch golf?
Sometimes. Yeah.
I watch majors.
I'll watch the majors and stuff. But
like the Masters.
Is it boring? No. They're always moving. They're always doing something. It is fun to watch, but the pace of play is a lot different than, say, the NBA.
Do you like hockey?
I do.
To me, it's the same thing.
But it's not. It's not something I watch regularly.
I shouldn't say low scoring, right?
I'll watch basketball.
Fucking defense is that good.
Okay. I watch almost every basketball and football game that I can. Baseball, I'll catch about a quarter of them. Soccer, maybe about 2 or 3 a year.
Do you really watch that many NBA games?
I watched 1 last night and 3 the night before.
I don't see how you can.
Really?
I love college basketball. I can't stand NBA.
Really?
NBA it's all offense.
It's
pick and rolls and 3-pointers. That's all, and driving to the hole.
I just created an idea for you guys.
They had the cup game last night, and they didn't even score 100 points, either team. So I mean,
that's actually pretty fun. Little defense.
Can I fix soccer and hockey for both of you real quick?
You don't need to fix it for me.
All right, every time.
Yeah, there's no need to fix soccer.
I like them both. I like hockey and soccer both.
I'm just saying, when it comes to the low scoring argument, instead of when a hockey team puts the puck into the net naturally, that's now worth 6. And then after that, there's going a 1-on-0 penalty shot, and if the guy scores it, it's worth 7. It's worth another point.
I don't think it's the points; it's the frequency
in soccer,
of them.
Same thing. I'm just saying, in terms of if you increase the points, because let's be real, you get the ball in the end zone, it's worth 6. That's just a number that someone came up with.
Arbitrary, yeah.
But Randy just said it. You may have not heard it. It's not that total. It's the frequency of the scoring. Because in your scenario, every NFL game, statistically speaking, soccer games, the average score is 2-1. So that means every NFL game would be 14-7. That's not the case. It's the average is like 21-17, I believe. So
Can I ask you a question? And this is part of this captivation topic. Soccer and hockey. There's how many ways to score points?
One.
Football.
Three.
4.
I mean, safety, field goal, touchdown.
And I would count like defensive touchdowns, interception. It's just a touchdown. Just a touchdown.
Okay, so touchdown or field goal.
Yeah.
So now
it's safety.
It's safety.
And safety. So there's 3.
And point after.
And I guess
that's why I said
whatever.
Yeah.
my argument is there's nothing in soccer or hockey when it's a goal-based sport that direction to give a
Advantage.
dynamic sport. You can't have a kick in there.
Let's talk about.
You're talking like NBA, you get the 3-pointer, and then you get the.
Well, let's talk about the nature of why they're slow scoring or low scoring. Pardon me, slow scoring. Maybe slow scoring too. Why are they low scoring? Why?
It's tougher.
It's because the fucking defense is
It's difficult.
great. It's so good, and you get so few scoring opportunities.
Can I interrupt you?
Of course.
The goal
expect
is
you to.
the goal is exponentially smaller too.
Yeah,
Think about the end zone in
yeah.
terms of how much end zone you have versus a hockey net. That's big.
Sure.
Think about
I
versus
get it.
even a soccer net. That's bigger. So it's still a lot less.
Well,
I'm gonna jump in. One, because I've had this debate for all my life about soccer and scoring, but also
Wait, are you here for a reason?
Yeah. But one point about the football and it being bigger, right? Rugby, relatively speaking, is the same dimensions. There's less scoring. The NFL has put rules in place to help scoring. It's been a strategic move by the NFL.
And they keep putting more and more, the return rules this year.
Right. Whereas soccer, and why I said it doesn't need fixing, soccer does not see the need to change it. In fact, one would argue with the stupid VAR decisions they've made over the last 5 years that it's lowered scoring because they're taking goals off the board because my pinky was across some imaginary line.
Hey, man.
So and they're changing that. It's going to have to be the whole body mass. And so I would say, to Randy saying some people think it's boring, right? There is a personal aspect of what works for me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm a fan of both. I think it's funny when football fans say soccer is boring because football goes for 4 seconds and they stand around for 35.
Well, you have 3 hours on TV and it's maybe like 25 minutes of action.
But I love the sport. I absolutely love it.
Okay.
And then soccer is fluid and it ebbs and flows and there's a beauty to the movement. And I'll tell you, I've watched a lot of exciting 0-0 games in my life.
Oh, yeah.
And you go by just the scoring, which you're proposing to fix, that doesn't change that, right?
It reminds me of hockey a lot because there's just so few good scoring opportunities that you get that somebody gets down the wing and is open. You're like, you can feel the crowd just go nuts.
But even 3 years,
Get that cross.
ago, they changed the rules in hockey to increase scoring, and the over/unders went up by like 3.5 a game. That's crazy.
But overall,
I prefer 1-0.
I still think that's a shift in an objective sense of, yes, scoring is happening more, but it's somewhat equivocal across the board that scoring is happening more.
Here's my answer to all that.
Games are higher scoring now.
Football is not by design, because it was designed a long time ago, but to today's standards, football fits the average adult's attention span perfect.
I could believe that.
Because you have an attention span of 6 to 12 seconds. Your average play is about 4 to 7 seconds. Yeah. So your average adult attention span, the game fits it perfect.
So let's go into
Sad.
It is sad. It's very sad.
Something fun from that. There's a big controversy that exists in both, but very much less in one. The tie. What do you guys think about tying?
I'm all about
in
PKs.
sports?
Soccer, they need to have PK at the end of every
asked
game.
me if soccer was boring, so I'm fucking.
So
You don't like PKs?
Oh, I hate PKs.
So you'd rather just end it in
I
time?
hate PKs in two ways.
It's a very arbitrary way to end a game.
If your team is ever involved, and a team that you support is ever involved in penalties, you have 5 heart attacks during the penalty.
Yeah.
Or 10 while you watch the other team do it.
And second, I hate penalties because there is a skill. The goalies and taking the shot, it's high pressure, but it is not the game.
Yeah.
Right. But the problem is, take college for example. College soccer, they keep playing overtimes until somebody scores. Now they changed that in the last few years, but it used to be the NCAA tournament for soccer. It could go 4 or 5 overtimes, and they just keep getting more tired.
Sudden death,
and
man.
the game falls apart, and so then it's not the game either. So. As far as ties, NFL, we all know can tie, but it's once a year, right? But in soccer, I think it's perfectly fine. To your point, just one little thing. When MLS started, they wanted to address this, and they had the shootout. And you guys may not know that. Brian shaking his head, he does. So when a game tied, you got the 3 players for each team, and it was like the hockey breakaway, if you will.
Yeah.
You got the ball at midfield, and you had 10 seconds to shoot the ball in the net, and it was one-on-one with the goalie. It was exciting, but it wasn't soccer.
Yeah,
and after about 2 or 3 years, they got enough feedback. They cut it.
It's very
and they just went
gimmicky.
with
It's very
ties.
gimmicky.
Yeah.
And soccer's such a traditional sport. I think the real purist fans are really, really. I mean, maybe if you could throw 100 ideas, maybe they'd grab one. But the beauty of the game is that you don't need novelty to create excitement.
But in some situations, you're the lesser team on the road. A draw is a win.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Going into a
question for you on this then, with ties. What do you think about, and this is a different sport, I know, hockey.
Sure.
When you go into overtime, extra time, immediately both teams get a point because it says you both fought hard. One of you is going to get 2 because that's how many a win is worth. But you both made it here, so you get 1. You both get your participation trophy.
Participation trophies.
Now, the only thing that I will argue is if you lose in 3 periods in hockey, 2 points go to the winner, 0 points to the
0
loser.
points to the loser.
Tie, extra time, overtime. It will never end in a tie in hockey. But at that point, it's 1 point versus 2 points. Is that a better system based off of how league standings
When did
and the
they
metrics
change?
go?
When did they change this in the NHL?
Ooh, that's been a while.
You're talking about just standing
It's 3
points.
points for
Well-
3 points for a win, 1 point for a loss, 1 point for a tie, 0 points for a loss.
Let me back you up here. What I guess I'm getting at is leagues and how they measure their metrics.
Yeah.
So in the NFL, it's just simply win-loss, so to speak.
Yeah.
Sure.
Whereas in soccer, wins have points, draws have points, losses have points. Hockey is the same.
well, yeah.
So league standings and metrics is the United States taking football in the NFL and making it an exclusive where it's a record-based sport.
I
Is
mean,
that
you could,
part of the
honestly,
tie?
you could make maybe the amount of games you play a year makes a difference, because I mean, hockey's what, 60 or 70. I want to say it's like 60 or 70, 80, maybe something like that games a year.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Something
82.
like that. 82, is it 82?
88.
Okay, 88. Similar to
Actually, I think it's 84 right now.
the NBA is 82.
82.
And
Baseball's
of course,
162.
You're never going to
Yeah.
get. I mean,
It's bonkers in the numbers here. But
There's no ties in basketball.
Well,
so
I mean,
I'm just asking the question,
I
though.
don't know.
Is
It's a good
the
question.
league metric factor a part of it? Is that something the NFL does in football to isolate itself?
Lower scoring game, lower scoring sports, ties mean something.
because you have more ties.
I think it speaks a lot to what you said. Is that, if I'm a bottom 5 team in my division and I'm on the road at Miami and we get a 1-1 tie, like, as well as I do, the fans back home here are cheering their ass off because
the home fans are pissed.
Oh yeah, they're not happy because they should not have. They should not have even. They shouldn't have scored shit on us, and it does, and it happens. And I think, to me, like, I never got to answer whether I thought they were both boring, but I don't think they're boring because I played both. And this is this thing with attention spans of people, and we watch sports. We want to watch scoring plays. We watch baseball. We want to watch home runs. We watch football. We want to watch bombs. I played hockey as a kid. I played soccer as a kid, and I'm going to tell you, you'll understand this exactly, and you will too. A great defender. That's a baller skill, dude.
Yep.
A guy who can absolutely shut down the back, that center back man who can just completely general the field and nobody gets close. That's worth just as much as having a badass wing or a striker.
To that point, so my daughter has plays competitively now, and she played defender for a couple of years. She had always played forward, scored goals, and she would complain, like, I don't get to score anymore. And I remember one time after a game, I said, you cleared 2 balls off of the goal line today. That's the equivalent of scoring 2 goals, because the other team would have had 2.
You're -1 versus +1, right?
And I think fans don't see it that way.
I don't know who said it, but offense gets the glory and defense wins the game.
Yeah. Well, especially in hockey and soccer, these boring games. It's like there's a reason why they're low scoring. It's because the defense is that much. I mean, the defense is that much better than the offense. That's right. It. They've mastered how to space. Soccer and hockey are the same way, man. Clogged lanes, clogged passing lanes, and you almost have to be superhuman to get the ball in. Mm-hmm. You do.
Let's talk about the last weird dynamic of captivation within sports.
Mm-hmm.
Football, mm-hmm. Soccer, football. How long is the scheduled programming on a TV slot for football?
3 hours.
Correct.
Yeah, 3.
Excellent. 3 hours. And how much time of that is spent playing football?
15 minutes.
15 minutes. Yeah, 15, 20 minutes.
Oh, no, because you got go. If it's a run play, the clock keeps running. So I would say probably about 15 minutes.
Live action.
Pump everyone's brakes. I can't possibly keep up with this. I did get all of my internet data. So I want you to know that the answer is impossible. But the truth is, the majority of data seems to suggest it's between 11 and 12 minutes per game. That's actual football.
I was going to say 10 to 12 minutes.
Now, in soccer, average
90 minutes?
93. 93 because of stoppage time, and referees often underestimating how much time it was for an injury.
For the stoppage.
Yeah, for stoppage.
However, I do know, and MLS has done some things to try to fix this. I forget the exact number, but I think it's about 60 minutes of actual gameplay.
Correct.
Because out of bounds, throw-ins, goal kicks, fake injuries.
Yes.
Well, stoppages that aren't necessarily, don't stop the clock.
And so, again, there's a level of
acting.
There's a level of internet metric here, because part of the metric is how much is soccer played on the field where the ball's moving, whereas a throw-in is, that's a part of soccer. Now, that also said, the other part of this is commercial breaks versus breaks in play.
Yeah.
Now, that is where it changes, because all 90 minutes of soccer is 90 minutes of soccer.
That's why I love soccer.
Yeah.
But 1 hour...
45 minutes,
every 3-minute commercial breaks in football.
And 1 hour of football is 3 hours on TV and 11 to 12 minutes of play. So I am begging anyone to comment, tell me, you guys, tell me how stupid I am. I just cannot understand how captivation of hockey, soccer, low score.
You hit it right there, dude.
Low attention span, high score.
Well, I wanted to touch back on that, because look at all the modifications that they're doing to baseball, because it is lacking in attendance. Because
they also wanted to get the games under 3 hours.
Which I understand that, but it wasn't a problem in the past. It was because of the attention span, and people were playing on their phones in the stands and not paying attention, getting hit with balls.
You have pitchers that fucking slow play the shit out of the game too, that want to sit up there and like mean mug every batter that comes up. And
the MLB is a different night, fellas, and I love you both, but let's just be real. That sport doesn't have a salary cap, and the top 2 teams playing for the World Series, go fuck yourself. I'm not watching it.
So I think part of it, I mean, we were talking about it before. We're watching to be entertained, right? Mm-hmm. And the entertainment, just like the argument about fixing soccer to, you were proposing, make it sort of like football. They're different for a reason, and they appeal differently, right? Like for a football game, watching a football game, whether I'm there in the stadium or whether I'm at home with my family or friends, watch the play, and then you got 30 seconds to talk, and you can interact in that experience. Where soccer, your eyes are fixated on the field. You might be talking to your buddy or your wife, but you're fixated for those 45 minutes, then you pause. It's just a different experience, and both are fucking awesome.
Let me ask you this, though.
They are.
Why is it that soccer is captivating everywhere in the world except for the United States.
We'll get back to that because I want to come back to that.
Okay.
I want to interrupt you, though. Can we all move on from this one?
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. Fellas, let's talk about the next broad sweep, unification. Ben mentioned earlier to me in a text message that hit me a little home, and that was a lot of sports we root for in the Olympics. We cheer for gold medals. USA.
America.
USA. USA. I can't help but notice there is no USA football team. In fact, it seems like we have the furthest thing.
There's going to be.
Because there's football in the Olympics.
Yeah.
There's no USA team because there's no international stadium.
Baseball,
How is
played
that?
forever, but the rule was bad because professional athletes couldn't participate in the Olympics.
Okay, so but now I'm struggling. How
He keeps going back to baseball, but I just want to.
So national team? How is there no national team with how is football not expanded?
I want to answer this one first.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I think that you have an issue with it, just like you have with American soccer. It has tried to break through, and there is a lot of interest in it in the United States. It just can't break through. One, you're not getting the TV time. Football, baseball, and basketball has pretty much dominated the sports in America. Now you go overseas, you have soccer, which is the number one watch sports. Cricket is the number 2 watch sport in the world. You have to now break through these cultures, these people who have invested their time, money, lives into supporting these things like we do in America for our baseball, basketball, football. Yeah. And you have to break that ceiling, and it's very hard because a lot of people are set in their ways. Now, I don't know how pickleball's done it, but the popularity just goes through the roof with that. But
something like bags, dude.
Bags and all that. But no, I think you have to break through the current culture that has adapted to what they're used to and what they see on a regular basis and what they've invested in. I mean, look at you. You said you've invested almost $300,000. I mean, and then you go to these poorer countries. I mean, these kids are invested in these sports from the time they can walk. I mean, they may not have the money, but their energy and efforts and passion is invested in this because it's a sport they can play. Like you said, one ball is all you need for...
Well, in the poorest neighborhoods, kids can play it. Yeah. The poorest neighborhoods. It's not like, maybe this speaks to youth soccer around here. Well, I mean, but you go over to Overland Park, at least I'm at Paragon, I'm going to go out on a limb. And I'm going to say that a lot of lower income kids who could be really, really skillful soccer players don't get the opportunity.
I know kids that I said my daughter, she plays at a mid level, let's call it. She plays competitive. She doesn't play locally. She plays regionally in the U.S.
She's good. She's not a future Messi.
She may not be, Alex Morgan, but there are kids that were offered spots on her team that had to turn it down because of the cost.
Yeah, you can't.
And they live in Lee Summit. They don't live in an urban area, right? So they've got some money and they can't afford it, and it's a real problem. It kind of flips your question, though. I just think American football is so unique to our culture, like you said. Yeah. I don't think that it needs to or ever will be like the top sport in another country. I could be wrong, maybe 100 years from now, but where soccer is so easy, and I'm not going to disagree with you, Randy, that it hasn't broke through in the U.S. I think it is breaking through.
Yeah. To some extent, yeah.
Because you look at the attendance, you look at the TV ratings, it's sneaking up on
you get a few more Messi type players running the MLS. I mean, you could really have a lot of.
You just got to keep bringing the good ones from the good teams to the retirement league.
That can be It's not. But I mean, that's a tough get. I mean, because if somebody's playing EPL, I mean, you want to bring them to the United States? Because let's be honest. You give me your opinion. Best team in the EPL. Best City. What would they destroy everybody in the MLS?
Yeah, the more common belief is the best teams in MLS would be in the bottom 5 of the EPL.
Yeah.
I mean, here's another thing. Look at how much they paid Messi. Yeah. Then look at how much he was offered to play overseas, which was about triple, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
So I mean, the U.S. market can't support Messi, let alone somebody like Messi and Ronaldo.
And Mbappe come in, or Ronaldo come in.
And this is where I want to interject. And this is where my jokes get a little dark. and I'm sorry. But when I say the retirement league, I am fully fucking referring to the MLS. And the reason that I say it is a lot of players in countries that are not as stellar, and I mean this as an American, they are not as stellar in terms of economy, in terms of stability, in terms of all these things. And these guys are looking at money going, well, I've made enough. Now I want to live in the best place I know.
Yeah.
And I'm going to America, and I'll take enough money that I can support all of my American habits. And by God, I've got a savings account of jubles and goobles over here.
Yeah, but this is why I disagree with the. There are high profile examples of that.
Yes.
I'll grant you. MLS has also joined the world transfer market. There's a lot of, especially South and Central American players that are young, that are coming up, and you don't even know their names, and then they're being bought out of MLS to European leagues. So it's flipped a little, where I would have argued it was more retirement, but just because Messi came here doesn't mean it still is.
To me, it's more of a farm system.
One of Messi's national team teammates, Alameda, played for Atlanta, won MLS Cup, and got sold for 8 figures into Europe, the highest transfer out of MLS ever. So it's changing.
I will accept portions. I will also say that I didn't start the retirement league jokes with Messi. I started them with Beckham.
Yeah.
You already knew it, you motherfucker. All right.
Smack you with
There's
the
been
glove across the
others.
face.
So-
How dare you?
let's just move on and agree to disagree, because we got to keep it rolling. We got to keep moving.
I agree with that.
Now, I will say,
I agree with both. I can see both sides.
I will say I think I could throw points at you and you go, yeah, it's a retirement.
And I
think you could throw points at me and I'm going to go, yeah, we're building it. And I think the whole truth of it is that is a complex system of growing, pulling in interest, because the Americans, we fell in love with the Messis, the Ronaldos, the David Beckhams, all these guys. They're who we're watching, because at the time in the MLS, you're looking at Preki going, wow, look at his step over. And Messi is dribbling 11 fucking players. It's a difference.
And I think it goes back to what I said at the beginning of this little segment, is that it has to do with the money.
Yeah.
Because when you're young, you can go over there and make triple, quadruple the money. I mean, I don't know what the stats are, but I would fair to guess that soccer is probably the highest paid sport there is.
Now,
and you can go make $100 million a year if you're good. If you're average, you can still go make 20, 30, and then come back here and live the rest of your life out on your 1 to 2 million that you're getting MLS.
There's average players in EPL that make $50,000 a week.
all right, so I'm going to argue, and we're going to drop it, because this one will go forever.
Yeah.
I think that your argument, to an extent, is absolutely correct. I think your argument of where you make those contracts is a difference. I think where you're a part of a program is a difference. So let's go on, and I want to come back to the money side, because that's what we're talking about. So I'm going to hit you guys with a metric, okay? And this is, I'm going to be forthright, it is most popular event viewed in terms of viewership versus revenue occurred in that year. Is everyone following this graph?
Sure.
Okay. We're going to start with soccer. 4 billion people is what is reported across massive amounts of sources to have tuned into the World Cup final.
Okay.
4 billion.
Good game.
Roughly speaking, half of the fucking planet.
I was one of them. It was a good game.
Me too. So, against that, there's an argument. 400 million is what supposedly, for Randy, viewed the Super Bowl. Now, upon further,
How many was the Super Bowl?
the Super Bowl supposedly 400 million. Now,
Okay.
I did do further diving, and I know I'm going to tell everyone that here the sources again are on the internet. So
Everything's true on the internet. So
I know
heard that too.
and this
I read
is a
that on the
struggle.
internet.
What I have found from more sources
Circular logic.
is that 103.4 million actually watched the Super Bowl. Not 400, but 103.4.
I would say more than
Can I ask
that.
you one
in the
quick
US.
question? Do you?
I would say
Why do you think
in
that
the
data
US.
skews like that?
I'm sorry.
Why do you think that data skews?
I honestly don't know, but I will say in my research, some of the commentary that we can't get into, obviously, in full depth, but I watched someone say that 16 billion people actually tuned into the Super Bowl in a comment. And that was on X. And I don't want to tell that person they're wrong, because I don't know. The census could be wrong. I don't know.
If I had to guess, I believe the 100 million is in the U.S. and 400 million is globally.
I would, and that's kind of where I was extrapolating the data to.
Or the extra 300 million just watch the commercials and don't pay attention to the game.
There's only 340 in the U.S.
But let's take that. So $4 billion for the World Cup, 400 million for the Super Bowl. Let's go to revenue. FIFA World Cup, 7.5 billion.
Correct.
NFL Super Bowl, 18 billion.
Then the 18 billion is full revenue of the NFL for a season, right?
One.
Yeah.
For the season.
One. Same season that we're talking about with data and viewership for the World Cup.
But you're talking of FIFA as an event, or are you talking about FIFA as a whole?
So FIFA.
The World Cup, or as a whole?
This is FIFA versus NFL on revenue overall for a year.
Okay.
Versus viewership of their biggest event. So it's not perfect data. It's not perfect a perfect graph. It's just it is a perspective though. Your biggest event of the year, your spectacle, versus who you are through the year. And again, I think it also speaks to the point 7.5 billion where teams play how many games versus 18 billion where teams play 16 games.
17.
17, but I also don't think that I don't think you're apples to apples.
It's not
It's 18 weeks, one bye week.
But
hold on, I want to because FIFA. I didn't look up your data. FIFA would represent the way I would hear it as national teams, not the EPLs and La Ligas and MLSs. So that's probably national team FIFA tournament revenue, which is a small subsection of all soccer.
It's pretty low.
It's fair. And again, the data is not perfect. Yeah. It is just it was a quick point of the biggest spectacle versus your yearly revenue. That was the only generic I was trying to put together, which was a broad sweep, and I know that, and I'm very well. So let's touch on my questions that come out here.
I think you're also comparing it to a lot of events that happen in third world countries compared to $1 million for a box seat at a Super Bowl.
You're not wrong, and I'm not fighting anything. It's just simply data that will.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's the way the reach of soccer is just it's vast.
So first question for all you guys. Let's go roundtable. We'll start with Brian.
Sure.
Will the NFL expand into other countries?
I mean, I think they're trying. They're definitely trying. I think if they could, I mean, okay, so I know that they've said that they would love to try to have teams in Europe. Because they've tried kind of in South America too, and it seems like South American fans like it, but European fans particularly seem to enjoy it. German fans love it. The question for me is whether they're trying to bring those teams, like to form teams in those countries, or are they trying to do basically an English version of the NFL?
I think they would do an expansion to the current league.
Because really, the travel logistics of that are a fucking nightmare.
I mean, they're doing it now.
I mean, how long does it take? How long does it take one person if you fly overseas to
8 hours?
You accomplish? Well, no, I mean to recover from jet lag. I mean that breaks this travel logistics incredibly strange.
The one good thing about football though is
could totally see him trying to do like a 12-team European league.
I could see that, but at the same time with your travel logistics,
NFL Europe is a fucking
NFL is way different because you get a 6 days of rest.
Yeah.
Now, usually you're back in Sunday morning to watch tape, all the above.
Monday morning.
No, so a lot of teams will go. Oh yeah, Monday morning. Sorry, my bad. Yes, Monday morning, the next day.
Love correcting.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
Thinking college football here. NFL, yes. Monday morning, you're back in there watching tape. Yeah. Now, I do know when they went over this year, they stayed. They played 2 games overseas and stayed the whole week.
Yeah.
So they kind of got to acclimate. They didn't have to fly back. But you've got teams that are playing on the East Coast at midnight and coming right back to the West Coast and playing the next night. So it's one of those things where you just, I think you would. It's only going to be once a year. for a team to do that.
Yeah.
Now, the team that's there having to travel, I would imagine they would move their schedule to make it work.
That's more what I'm talking about. Is those European teams or South American teams would probably be easier.
Oh yeah, because you're pretty much the same time zone.
The European teams, that would be. I mean, you're going to be living overseas for.
I think if they're going to do it, they'd probably do one in London, one in Mexico. Would be their expansions. What do you think?
Ben, will the NFL expand?
Yes.
Into other countries?
Yes. They've as much as stated it. Before we came on, I said I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to move to London. They're the one that Randy was talking about that stayed there for 2 games and stayed a week.
Duval County.
And then they got a bye, I think, after to help with that jet lag. But I think as travel has become, they charter all their planes, right? Mm-hmm. So they can first class if you fly, first class now has beds, right? So they can make it comfortable to help with that recovery. It won't make it perfect, but I think that they want to expand. They want the money, and especially as Brian pointed out, Germany has exploded. I mean, the Chiefs are a one of the brands that gets to market in Germany. Oh, yeah. They have a huge following there. So yeah. I honestly think it will. I don't think it would work in Mexico.
I think it's Europe. In summary, I think as we would all agree.
Then why do we keep playing in Mexico?
Oh gosh,
money.
Trying.
Just try.
You got to test the market.
Test the waters.
And I think if you do 3 games a year there, I mean, you're going to absolutely see. The problem is you put 15 games there a year and see what happens,
So in summary, we're all just a little sad that it might be the Jaguars instead of them boys that leave. So last one
boys are America's team, dude.
On this unification.
You can't get rid of America's team.
You're killing me, man.
Well, let's. I want to touch on this last one for unification here. United States. We're talking about football versus football, but we were talking about it as football versus soccer, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have soccer, and we have baseball and hockey, and we have a fuckload of other sports, don't we?
Yep.
Lots of major league sports, lots of professionals.
And we also have $18 billion in the NFL, the highest grossing sport on this planet. Mm-hmm. Is the United States the best at playing games?
Good question.
It sure seems like they're the best at wringing money.
Let's go reversal.
I think we have. It's not so much a sport. It is that we have a very vast advertising system, because you have the companies willing to pay that money. Because a 30-second spot in the Super Bowl is up to like $4 or $5 million now.
It's not cheap.
I didn't look. That
it might even be up to like $10 million.
Yeah, it's
ridiculous. So you're having 30 seconds of your. The commercials are extended in the Super Bowl, so you've got a 4-minute spot. So that means you just sold $80 million worth of advertisements for 4 minutes.
For one break.
For one break.
Guess what? You're going to see 3 or 4 minutes of action. There's going to be another one.
Yeah.
3 or 4 minutes. There's going to be another one. There's going to be another one.
So is the USA the best at playing games?
USA is best at wringing money out of the populace.
Bingo.
Yes. Yeah.
I tend to agree. I think if I would word the question is are we a sporting nation? You might hear that internationally, and there's a common theme. I'll let you guys decide what it is. Some of the biggest sporting nations are England, South Africa, Australia, and the U.S. Mm-hmm. And all of them are infatuated with sports. Now, that's not to say other countries aren't infatuated with soccer or cricket, India being a great example. But the ones that are saturated with multiple sports are those 4, basically. Germany is probably up there. But that for me is how I would word it. The best at playing games. Yes, we've got a lot of great athletes. Some of that was self-created a few hundred years ago. Yeah. But it also goes to we have a lot of money, and we have a little more freedom on average as a populace.
Well, here's a question for you, too. I know we don't have the metrics to it, but how many sports and events average $1,000 to take your family to go see? In other countries, I don't know what the metrics are, but I know to go see an NFL game, the average is from $900 to $1,200.
I'd be interested to see what it like if you were in Spain, what it would cost to go to a Real Madrid game.
Not that.
And
not that. Randy, I didn't think so.
Randy, I want to back you up here. Fuck me, guys. It's a first. I'm backing up Randy.
Oh shit!
Is that sexual or like you're supporting him?
So anyway, back to
sexually
the
supporting
podcast here.
That's even hotter.
Randy, I agree with you. And I laugh because I think of things even dumber and even crazier and wilder, like the Kentucky Derby. And I've been to the Kentucky Derby in the poor man's infield.
In the infield, it's still like $300 to get in there.
No, well, now I don't know now. It was 80 when I went.
I looked it up. It was like 200 and something, but then you got
It was $80 when
stuff.
I went. You could bring your own cooler. I saw a guy fall through a porta potty roof. It was phenomenal. But what I also found out is to get into a seat that's not the infield
Oh, I looked those up too. Yeah.
starts about $3,000. Starts.
No, it's not cheap.
That
Well,
was
you know,
that
horse
year.
racing is not a cheap barrier of entry.
And I'm not trying to detract us. I laugh at even horse racing. We, the United States, have found a way to play games and make it into this $3,000 a seat game.
$3,000 a seat to what? A minute and a half?
Yeah, but I don't know what the Royal Ascot costs, but those people are pretty rich too over in England.
Oh, I'm not arguing.
And there's some big events in Japan. I may or may not have bet on some horses online late at night.
All right, so now that we know that
Sometimes
Ben,
that's all it's on.
I know.
I
get bored. What are you gonna do, man? Come on.
All right, so now that we know that Ben has bet on some horses, let's learn some more about Ben, our guest tonight. Let me help you out. Ben has 30 years of season tickets to both Futbol and Futbol, depending on which way you prefer to pronounce that one. American soccer, American football. He has played both sports many years. He has a role in the growth of local teams. And I want to know, Ben, how much have you grown the Chiefs?
The Chiefs, no, I haven't had a role with the Chiefs. It would be more with the Wizards and then Sporting.
God, we got to get better guests
But
here.
I've been,
Yeah, we do.
I mean, but I've
Now
been,
let's talk about the other team.
Your choice, dude.
I've been paying the Chiefs a lot of money for a lot of years, so I've helped that.
All right, that's what I like to hear.
He's still-
Clark Hunt
yeah.
appreciates you. I bet
still
he sent
helping
you a
out.
Christmas card. But
That's what I
what's
say
your
too.
role?
I support the performing arts.
Yeah.
All right,
Strippers.
Dancers.
all right. We got to get these yahoos to shut up here because we all need to hear your role in the growth of local soccer.
Yeah, so when I was in high school and college, I actually wanted to be a pro. And right on my 16th birthday, the Wizards played their first game. And my mom bought me season tickets that first year. I was going to try out. I did go to their tryouts, and they told me I was too slow and short, and that was kind of the end of that.
Oh, you look like a stud.
Yeah, exactly.
If they saw you out on that over 35,
I know they may change their mind, but so I started going to games, and some of you know, I think all of you know my best friend, and he and I started going to games together in high school, and that turned into I was falling in love with the sport. The 1990 World Cup had happened, and that really had hooked me before MLS came, and then in 2000. We were at a game, and a soccer ball rolled across Arrowhead's parking lot, and I stopped it, and the guy that it belonged to came over, and he just happened to be part of this little group called the Mystics. And they were a bunch of college guys, and introduced themselves and said, "Hey, come over and have a beer." And we went over and had a beer, and they told us where they sit, and we're like, "Oh, you guys are the guys that are making noise down in the corner." They're like, "Yeah, come join us." Well, we had season tickets on the 7th row at midfield on at Arrowhead. So right behind the benches, great seats. And we went over and we literally never went back to our season tickets. And that group of about 30 guys and a few girls, it was mostly nerdy guys from KU, became the Cauldron. And so in 2002, I became the president of the Cauldron. We had about 50, 70 people on any given game. I was the leader, if you will, until about 2006-07. We were up to about 500 people. Then at that time, we left Arrowhead. I was getting busy with work, stepped away from the president, but there was also the Wizards were thinking about leaving. And I was involved in the Save the Wizards campaign that ended up engaging with the on-goal guys that bought the team and made them sporting. And then from 2006 until 2013, I was the capo. So if you don't know what the capo is the guy that stands in front of the supporters section and leads the chants. And so I stood in front of the section. We built in the stadium a 2,000-person section, led the chants, and was kind of I don't like this description, but was kind of a mascot for the group.
Instigator.
There was 2 or 3 of us that we went around and talked up to people, engaged new members, and talked to them and built it. And I think today the Cauldron now has about 5,000 members. In 2013, I retired. I was moving to Nebraska. Didn't know how many games I would get to.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but is it weird that my brain just went to, do you have a minute to talk about Jesus? You confronted him.
And talk to you about Jesus.
Yeah.
Let me talk to you a minute. Wait, come back.
Oh, also, since we talked about you playing and wanting to try out, is it okay if we edit in that picture of you playing adult soccer? So we can
do whatever you want.
Do you have a picture of you doing a bicycle?
I've scored a bicycle.
Yes.
When I was about
over 35.
No, when I was about 17.
It doesn't count then.
Yeah, when I was about 17.
If you missed that when you're 35, you're going to be in traction.
Yeah. But I did fall face first in the over 35 league with an open net and the ball rolling to my feet because my cleats stuck in the grass. But so then I retired. I kept season tickets, stayed in the Cauldron, and became past president. They call us poobahs. There's about 5 of us, and to this day, I kind of run into people that know me, and so I wouldn't pretend like I'm the savior of soccer in the city, but I was involved in that story.
All right. I've got one left for you before I'm going to open it up for the round table here. Everyone in this room has played team sports growing up. And I don't know if anyone else is in over 35 leagues or whatever, but everyone else played team sports. You are a father. You're a good guy. And I want to hear your perspective on team sports and children, and where you stand with both playing team sports and now being a father with children in them. I want to hear your thoughts.
So there is an invaluable skills and life lessons to be learned through team sports. I don't care what sport it is. The idea that it's not all about you. Right, an individual sport, it's you against yourself, and there's good in that, right? But when you have to learn to move, think, act cohesively, and that it's not all about you, and it's about the team, that builds something in people that goes into whatever walk of life they go into, because most of us end up on a team of some sort. In our career, in our family, they're all teams. So that for me is where I would start with how important it is. I have serious issues with youth team athletics in the United States for a couple of reasons. Money, we talked about it earlier. Pay to play, especially in soccer, is terrible. We care too much about winning. It does not matter if you win or lose when you're 11 on the soccer field. And yet there's parents that look like they're about to have a stroke on the sideline yelling at their poor little Susie to score a goal. And all that does is make the kid hate the sport. And there's so many kids that drop out because of that. And there's too many bad coaches. There's coaches that don't know what they're doing, but also feed into that money and winning, and they teach the game wrong. And there's ways to win in a soccer game that actually hurts a kid's development on becoming a soccer player. Yeah. So their team wins all the games when they're 12, but when they get to 16, nobody wants them because they didn't learn how to play, because all they did was kick the ball to the fast kid, and the fast kid scored all the goals.
That's what we did.
Yeah. So when it comes to team sports, love them, but it's got to be in the right environment. You got to have the right coach, and yet the parents have to have the right mentality.
Well, I wanted to touch on it's very hard to find a coach.
Yeah.
Because it's not a rewarding job because of those parents that you mentioned screaming and yelling and why isn't my kid playing? So it's hard to develop the players that have a chance because of the parents. Mm-hmm. And I don't know many people that are willing to step up and take that role because it's such a headache.
It's a very thankless job.
I mean, the same applies to referees in soccer.
That too.
And
all sports.
I've heard umps in baseball as well.
Oh yeah.
I think you're spot on. I think it goes to some of the cultural stuff and social media stuff we talked about, and self-importance, quite frankly, of a lot of people. But I do see a pushback. My oldest daughter now has been playing for 7 years, and there are, in the club she's in the leagues that she's in, there are rules. And if you coach your kid, they will ask you to leave the club. The coach coaches. If you yell at refs, they will ask you to leave and they will kick you out. And I've seen it happen. So it's getting better, but I think it's also, ironically, the better environments are the ones that cost more.
Oh, yeah.
Because in rec, you go out to Legacy Park here in Lee Summit, you'll just leave shaking your head at the parents yelling and screaming. You go to one of my daughter's soccer games, and yes, we pay a lot of money, I'll admit. But the parents are chill. Not a single person coaches the kids, and nobody talks to the ref.
That's like the crazy thing I've heard. Hockey takes a few pads, a helmet, a stick, and skates. But everybody I've talked to...
Those are expensive pads.
Well, I know.
Pricey,
But at the same time...
High barrier of entry cost.
$5,000 minimum a year for their kid to play hockey. Mm-hmm. And
no. I can't speak to now.
How long has it been since you played hockey?
About the same number of years it's been since you got your license.
Because you got to throw in your traveling, your gas.
It's part of the conversation I had with my parents because I played soccer from when I was 6 to 14. Okay, and there were no competitive. I mean, maybe there were club teams, but it was all local independent stuff. You played BVAC, you played Independence Parks and Rec. I mean, there were all kinds of leagues. And I got into a good team, and I played with a really good team probably the last 4 years. And we did really, really well. But I'm going to tell you, my mom asked, he's playing all this, these practices and games every weekend. I said, Mom, the whole time I played soccer as a kid. Now, granted, this was in the 80s and early 90s, but every season they paid for, I don't think it costs as much as one year of my son playing club soccer.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'll be transparent. Our annual fee for my daughter's over $3,000.
Yeah,
and we have to take 4 trips out of town in the year, and that's for a family of 4. I mean, we're gonna spend that $5,000. One of my youngest daughter has a friend whose son is a highly competitive hockey player. They spend way more than $5,000 a year.
One of my best friend growing up, son is a very, very good soccer player, like academy team for U11 in St. Louis, and he told me what they're paying. It's like,
that's nothing. I started racing cars at 9.
Oh, yeah. Okay, there you go.
Well, you need the equipment too.
Yeah. All right, guys, this has been a great episode. Ben, thank you for coming.
I got a few things I want to touch on with it, though. I had a few questions.
He's trying to end
Randers.
I know. I did have a few questions.
I think he doesn't like you or something, dude.
Right?
He's trying to get me out of here.
Yes.
Sorry. This is why I don't host.
Well, I found a few things when we talked about this topic that I wanted to bring up. The money that is in the sports that you brought up earlier. Out of the college NIL deals, 7 of the top 10 are football players. Yeah. And I would make an argument that if it wasn't for Livy Dunn doing her own self-promoting and having the following she has, she probably wouldn't break the top 20 because there's no other gymnast in the top 20. Yep. It's all male football and basketball players.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a money to be made, obviously, because they're paying these kids that can't really give a return on their money.
Biggest college revenue sports.
Absolutely.
Basketball and football.
So, I mean, we're talking about football versus soccer. Are we just so self-absorbed as Americans that we are just unwilling to venture into new things? Or, I mean, where's that gap? Why are we struggling to...
Fucking Gargamel from the Smurfs next to me. What the hell was that noise, dude?
Why are we struggling to let soccer break into... Because all of us played soccer as kids. So all of us played soccer as kids. So we all enjoyed it at some point. Yep. Why is it such a struggle for it to break through and become a top contending sport?
I still think it's because it's low scoring.
Can I
honestly?
Can I throw some sense on this one, specifically too? I mean, let's be real. Pop Warner football. I know people that are my age, have kids that are about to hit Pop Warner, that are posting on Facebook saying, "No football, too dangerous."
I wasn't allowed to play football until I was in high school.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this last few years, the CT,
all I'm saying,
info is not great.
Yeah.
I did grow up playing hockey and soccer as my predominant. With regard to that, that's a thing to think about. That I mean, when I was growing up, Pop Warner had the first middle schooler death. Mm-hmm. It was a middle schooler death. Kid got trucked.
I know a lot of deaths in soccer though that have happened.
Well, it turned out that at the time, this was big at the time. Pop Warner, kid died. Bigger kid was playing. They went by grade, not weight, not age.
Correct.
They went by grade. Kid
They were by grade, not
went by grade.
Then they changed it to weight.
Bigger kid got held back. He wasn't smart enough to pass the grade. Held back. Pop Warner
but big
said,
enough to truck somebody.
14-year-old playing 6th grade.
Well, that was the struggle. Pop Warner said you can play our game.
Mm-hmm.
Same age, same grade, same everything. So now, kid gets hit, kid gets trucked, and it turned out there was a medical defect. Kid was probably not supposed to be in football. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to sit here and shit on the facts of everything everywhere. I'm not. That's not the point. Mm-hmm. It's just a safety aspect of.
But what's that have to do with soccer not breaking through? I guess I'm not.
I wasn't meant to be. Okay. Fair.
I was waiting for it to full circle.
Yeah,
I guess it got caught on the dark side of the moon out there.
Was football too dangerous? Is football too dangerous? And soccer broke through because it's soccer. You need a ball. You need shin guards. It's cheap. Anyone can go do it.
We have all that, but why hasn't it broke through in America?
I don't know if I would argue that it's not that it broke through. It's just that predominantly we focus on different sports.
Well, maybe it's also a long-term phase thing too. Club soccer in the last 15 years in Kansas City is just.
Let me throw one at you,
especially with the women's.
Yeah. So Kansas City has Heartland Soccer League, which my kid plays in. I think yours is going to, is the largest soccer league in the country. Mm-hmm. There's 38,000 or something that play in it. It's insane. They come from Arkansas. They come from Wichita. And so it is, I think it is a long game. And I think that's why I said earlier, I think it is breaking through, but I don't know that it's an instantaneous breakthrough. I think it's just we're going to look back one day and go, oh yeah, it broke through way back there. But I think I'm with Brian. I think it's, there's a little bit. I think there's two reasons. One is the obvious, the scoring. I just think there's that attention span thing we talked about earlier. I also think there's the aspect of the gladiator Roman Coliseum. Yeah. We like to see the violence. We love to see the hits. Mm-hmm. I think
as long as it's not us,
right? Right. And I've been actually surprised watching the NFL walk this balance of, we need to address the CTE issue and the safety issue, but yet it keeps growing.
Is CTE just part of the job description?
Well, I think yes. I think you're hearing more and more players that now that the information's out there, you hear stories of players that are like, no, I understand the risk, but I'm doing this for my family so I can set them up forever.
They're all refusing to wear the helmets. Yeah. There's only like 2 or 3 players that are wearing the new padded helmets.
You mean the balloons?
The balloons.
Tua damn near died on the field in front of us all this year.
Yeah.
And a week later, literally said at a press conference, I would die for this sport. Yeah. So I think that there's this bloodthirst that it goes to a primal thing in our brains that we want to see that violence.
It's the harnessing of controlled aggression.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This is gladiators, man.
Randy, I want to hit you with the thought process that I had when you were talking about like team sports and soccer's breakthrough, etc. I think I would argue that soccer broke through already in terms of youth team sports here, because I feel like more youth play soccer than football.
Yeah. But why doesn't it carry through into adulthood?
Yeah, definitely. That's not just a gut punch. That's empirical now.
Yeah. Why doesn't it carry through to adulthood and viewership numbers and stuff?
That's what I think.
And it goes back to, I think, empirical data, and I think it is scoring where their points are higher. I don't think it's higher. I think there's a
frequency.
I think there's a social aspect to the game. When you watch and you can dip and eat your chips and you can talk to your friends between plays and there's a commercial break, you have a social aspect where we're at with this connection level we're at in 2024 where everyone wants to talk all the time.
Hold on. I actually agree with you. I think that I think the pace of play, all that plays into it. But I'm going to go back to what you and I were talking about, which is as the sport explodes in the U.S. in terms of youth playing, what's the downstream effect? Well, the downstream effect is you're going to produce exponentially more great players.
Yeah.
And they're going to go to international teams, but they're also going to seed the field of the MLS and the U.S. national team.
Is that another problem? You would be best to answer this.
Yep.
Are we losing a lot of our good players to international teams, and that's why we're not seeing the growth?
But I wouldn't use the word losing. Okay. Right? I think that that's the current situation. Is the top talent wants to play top talent, right?
Yeah.
And so you look at the U.S. national team. The last games that they played, I remember when I looked at the starting 11, none of them play in MLS. Some would argue that's a negative, and I have an example of that I'd like to get out.
Well, it's a negative for the U.S. because the U.S. has the stronghold on NFL. You can't go anywhere but the U.S. Same with basketball. I mean, you have the European leagues and stuff, but that's almost considered G League compared to the NBA.
But my argument is what's the definition of good or bad? Because if the definition I think you're saying is good is for MLS, the league, having the best players in the league,
which would get the interest, like bringing Messi here, having a great player in the league.
I would also argue, though, that it helps the U.S. national team to have the players on the national team playing in the best leagues, so their good can be defined twice. But I do want to, on this subject, and it's a good question, the EPL has ruined the English national team for the exact opposite reasons. The EPL got so popular that all of the best players were coming, and England used to have more strict rules on how many international players could be on a roster, and they dropped those, and now the best English players are not getting minutes in the EPL, and the English national team has suffered over the last 20 years because of it.
But you said
so it goes both ways.
They're better because they're playing better, but that's like, well, yeah, we took the 10 people from the U.S. and put them on good teams. What if we had those 10 good players in the MLS? Yeah. So that, I mean,
it's a valid point. I mean, it would help grow it here for sure.
Well, that's that national standing thing. I mean, like MLS is it's a feeder league to Europe, to South America. It just is.
And where I was going with that though is that we saw a huge increase last year of, especially girls finding an interest in football all of a sudden.
Yep.
Could a power couple boost soccer like they did football?
In today's social media driven Instagram environment, absolutely.
Yeah, reality.
All right, I've got the perfect closing question. It's just to Ben. You guys have already heard it.
Okay.
We spoke with this about Ryan, previous guest who's been in sports commentating. What would happen if Taylor Swift showed up to a current game wearing a current jersey?
I mean, you would have an influx of interest, of course. I mean, that's a unique individual that the interest follows. She could go to Andy's ice cream down the street, and Andy's would all of a sudden be the best ice cream. So it stands to reason that yes, the brand would translate for sure.
Trying to pose into your question.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Does anyone have anything else for Ben at this point?
Well, we can do final thoughts. I just want
to
just get it up a little bit.
I meant like any final questions for Ben. Sorry.
No.
I mean, I guess I got one more. I want to get your thoughts on. So with the World Cup,
last words for Randy.
With the World Cup, we have now decided that we will pool our men and women's money and pay it out that way.
Are you talking about equal pay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts with taking the men's salary, the women's salary, putting them together, then equally distributing it out from there?
I actually am of both. I understand the points of both sides. Here's what I mean by that. The women are clearly at a different phase of where they're at with their game. Now, the U.S. women are actually dropping off because the game's growing in the rest of the world. So they're not the dominance that they were in the late 90s and aughts.
Kick shit out of everybody before.
But they continue to win, right? And so their argument was we win, we bring in all this interest. The fact of the matter is, if you go to a men's game in Dallas, where I went to a game at Jerry World this year, it wasn't full, but there was 50,000 people. If you put the same Gold Cup, or that was a Copa America game, but if you put the equivalent game, non-World Cup game, in that stadium for the women, there's 20,000 people. And so I understand. I have two daughters. I understand. I want it to be equal, but I'm also understand capitalism. And if you're bringing in the money, then you deserve the money.
I mean, it's funny that you brought up Dallas because you would get the 20,000 people because my personal opinion, the product isn't the same because they played 15 and under in Dallas and lost 5-2 to 15 to middle schoolers.
Yeah,
or high schoolers.
15 and under. Yeah, some high schoolers.
But I get your point.
If you're in 8th grade and you're 15, you are missed.
14 is
All
8th
right,
grade.
enough of you two.
But I get your point. But I mean, pick a sport, whether it's swimming or whether it's basketball or whatever. I mean, biologically speaking, the male versions of any of those sports are going to dominate if it's a physical sport, right?
Yeah.
There are certain sports that women that it doesn't take that muscular dominance.
Yeah.
And that makes it faster. That makes it harder. That it also was more collisions, the blood sport thing we said. So,
Yeah.
And we don't feel bad. We don't have emotion because we don't.
Right.
We don't see women getting trucked.
Yeah, but I'll tell you
That's the thing. I don't think a lot of people realize because they don't watch the sport. There's some hits in soccer.
Soccer's physical.
Yeah, it's
dude.
very physical. But
Watch my son
I think
get
it's
rammed into the wall and
Yeah.
it's hit his head. It's
But I'll tell you, women's soccer, they get really intense, even at my daughter's age and level. I mean, it's a pretty physical sport. She just got hurt 2 weeks ago because of a physical hit. But to your question, do I think that it should be absolutely equal? I don't, because I think it should be based on revenue brought in.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Bring in the money.
So, yeah.
All right, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Who does go around? Who goes first?
All right, I'll start.
Yeah, we'll go this way and let Ben end it.
You're the fucking driver, man.
All in all, great chat. I really appreciate you being here tonight. I think you really offered your perspective on a lot of these things. I would love to continue the conversation. Obviously, I think there's a lot of leftover topics left. Overall, I don't have any questions at this point. I think it was a good chat, and I would love to, at some point, hear your evolution of technology in sports, but not tonight.
He loves that evolution of technology topic.
Brian, what's up?
I don't have nothing long. Just thanks for coming. Always enjoy our talks. Smart guy. I mean, good, even keeled. Always kind of try to see both sides of the argument. You don't dig your heels in too deep, which helps. Like, well, no, I mean, I guess if we want to be viral or fucking controversial, we could bring in somebody who's got wild opinions. But I would much rather see rational, level-headed talk between people that bring different perspectives to the table, because that's what this is about. So I appreciate you coming. I hope it wasn't too up or too down or whatever. I hope you were comfortable, and I hope you had fun. And thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks for coming. All I got is Mike Ditka's Lingerie League's coming back 2026. They're going tackle and flag this time. A little combo.
I can think of a wardrobe malfunction, as I think it was coined, that they're going to want to look into.
Yeah, you might have.
We digress. Let's.
But no, thanks for coming. And
Ben, you're our guest. Give us your final takeaways. What do you got tonight?
VAR sucks, to your technology point. No, thanks for having me.
You don't like the sports bras that they all wear?
No. But no, had a great time. Appreciate it. I love both sports, as I think is clear. And I'm going to end on the note that I touched on because it's important to me. The U.S. has to get better at kids and team sports, and I hope that conversations like this and people hear this that help that.
Yeah.
Ben, thank you for being here. Randy, hit that wrap.